Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio Show. I'm Will.
And I'm Jen.
And today is our first show.
It is.
Are you excited about that?
I'm excited about it.
Are you nervous about that?
Maybe.
You're kind of nervous. And I think you have every right to be, because today we're going to interview you for our very first interview on the show.
I know. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, the reason why we're doing it is because you wrote an amazing book called Roots Return, Homesteading Bible. And I think it's very relevant to the show. It's relevant to our platform here at Inspirational Waves, Indie Rock Radio. And I think it's going to be some great information that you're going to be putting out today.
I hope so.
Yeah. So let's give you a little bit of a backstory here. This is taken from Amazon. People can go to Amazon and pick up your book, Roots Return. But on your author page, it tells a little bit about you. So let me read this off to you folks. Jennifer Kraft is a country girl who grew up on a farm tending to animals and a practical homesteader's daughter. So your dad was a homesteader as well, right?
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So she was raised active in the church for much of her early years, where she spent witnessing, touring, and singing Christian gospel music. So
That
you're
was a
like
lot of fun.
you're a singer too.
Yeah.
Are you going to sing for us one day on the show?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. She earned her bachelor's degree in science and dental assisting at the Wayland Baptist University, with a career as an Air Force instructor and healthcare provider. So what kind of healthcare was it?
Dental.
Dental?
All dental.
Okay.
And so, I became a manager in charge of a lot of programs.
Wow. That's impressive. I need a lot of dental help. Maybe you can help me one day, Jennifer. So after a career in the military, a failed marriage, and the death of her second husband, she puts her efforts into being God's obedient follower and offers an understanding of the scriptures from a Christian perspective. The first book makes a powerful connection between homesteading and the faith-based Christian roots. And we're going to get into that Christian roots.
Right.
You know, some people refer to it as Hebrew roots and other things, but we like to call it Christian roots.
It is. It's Christian roots.
Definitely. So she takes you on a journey identifying when to flip over the tables, like Yeshua.
Like in the Bible.
Like you flip over some tables.
Yeah.
And when to take a seat at the table to move towards his return. She switched. I'm like terrible at reading. That's one of my. I don't know if I'm dyslexic or I just can't read good.
Well, it's something other people struggle with, not just you.
She has switched gears, going back to live in a pure and prepared lifestyle with a foundation in core passages for powerful prayer and earthly protection. The book will question your loyalty to God, explaining the movement ignited through the uprising of the pandemic. Oh, that's going to be interesting talk right there. It is a turning point for the few awakened, and let me see. I'm missing it. For a few awakened and returning to the grafted roots. You're pointing at the screen for me. That helps. That does help. Roots Return provides the roadmap for Christian homesteading, moving away from the world's agenda, embracing the blessings of the return, and looking up and ready. Let us not be left in the dark.
So true.
So that was a mouthful there. And
I have to concise it and make it smaller, I think.
Well, you have to do something like you put it like in smaller words, and because I can't read so good.
Yeah,
that's a whole other issue.
It's the first time I've done this, y'all. So it's my first book, and it was exciting to do. However, I don't think I nailed it perfectly the first time. So.
I think you did really good, though. You're selling yourself short. I actually read some of your book, Jennifer, and I'm going to do better at reading. So I don't read. I never read. I just watch videos all the time. It's crazy. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few, meaning several, questions about your first chapter of your book, because today we're only going to touch on the first chapter, because it's a good sized book. You didn't mess around with your very first go at this.
Yeah, I wanted a guide. I wanted to kind of have a guide that sort of explained my journey, right? Because I was like, how am I going to talk about this later? How do I do I explain this to my parents, my family, or even people I don't know about this change? Because it is a change. It's a return back, but I didn't even know that in the beginning. Like, I didn't know it was a return back.
Right.
So there's so much involved in it that's to unpack, I guess, that I felt compelled to write it down.
Okay. So it's like right off the beginning, like right in the very start of your book, I was really impressed to see that you started off chapter 1 with like a biblical verse, which I think was really cool. And I'm reading from the Young Literal Translation. This is Isaiah 30 and 15. For thus said the Lord Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, I'm returning, and rest you are saved, and keeping quiet, and in confidence is your might, and ye have not been willing. So right off the bat, boom. So why did you choose that verse to start off the chapter, Jennifer?
Yeah, I believe that we have to be willing to return to our Creator, right? Our Abba, or our Father. I think that's really important. The reason I chose return is important because it goes back. So it's not just simply a journey ahead or like a walk towards. We're basically going back because we always belonged, right? Yet we lose our confidence, I think, sometimes. And that's when it appears that we're not willing anymore. And that's where that verse was important to me. And then I think in this book it goes back into verse 18 where it talks about grace and mercy in Isaiah 30. And so it says, it just talks about the Lord's grace and mercy. But I chose that verse in particular because it ends with this sort of, are you willing or aren't you?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So next in your book, and see, I'm going to kind of just peruse through chapter 1 here and ask you some questions. Next in your book, you talk about a life-changing event that happened in your life and in mine, I guess. What was that major life-changing event?
Well, basically, I think it was a really long conversation on the phone. And it was the first time that we talked about our faith and like our religious beliefs. It was something that I felt was really important because we wanted to be on the same page, I felt. And so that was it. In essence, it was long, drawn-out conversations.
Yeah, it was a lot of conversations that we had, and a lot of them were regarding our faith and everything. So, yeah. So, how confused were you when you looked at my profile and it listed me as a Christian, but everything I said and practiced was pointing to me being some card-carrying member of the Jewish faith?
Well, first of all, what does card-carrying member of the Jewish faith mean? Is there actually like
a
card?
I was very Jewish. Well, I mean, there could be a card, but it's just a figure of speech, Jennifer. We don't have to take this so literal.
I'm just curious.
So no,
like, what's card-carrying? Is that like, it's my driver's license. I am Jewish. Like
yeah,
that?
Exactly.
Okay.
I have something in my pocket that identifies me as being a total Jew.
Okay. So no, I was really confused. I truly thought I was dating a Jew. I felt like that you were special, I guess, in the sense that the Jews were the chosen people, right? So
you thought you were going to be dating a chosen one?
And it sounds silly, I know, but I was a Christian, so I felt that was a huge disconnect between us at first because I was like, he's a Jew, I'm not a Jew, and I'm not converting to Judaism.
Right.
So it's a disconnect. I was like, I need a Christian guy. This guy says he's Christian, but he apparently is Jewish.
He goes to synagogue.
Or something. So I was
he goes to synagogue every week.
I was confused on it, and I thought at first you were Seventh-day Adventist. Because you were like, I practice the Sabbath, and I'm like, okay. And I was like, I don't. I go to church on Sunday. And, so there were so many different aspects that I was like, how can the guy say that he's Christian online and in his profile, but when I actually get into it, it just didn't connect for me.
Did it make your head explode?
Yeah, it was like, like what? I don't know.
Yeah, it's confusing, really,
Yeah.
if you think about it, because everything that we learned as young people, maybe growing up in the church, we worship on Sunday. Go to church on Wednesday night sometimes as well, but a lot of Sunday worship, and only the Jews, practice the Sabbath each week.
And I didn't even know that. I thought it was like a Seventh-day Adventist thing.
Right.
So I had to really kind of study almost like religions, right? Different religions and the way that different religious beliefs and what they celebrate and how they worship and all this. And it's part of I believe it would be a good thing for other Christians to study too. Is other religions learn what they believe and how they praise and worship and things.
As long as they don't get so entangled in what they're learning that they start buying into some of them. I think people need to be really grounded in their faith first before they start studying other religions, because they can get off into la la land sometimes. I know some folks will get into like Gnostic texts, and I've heard like on like Now You See TV, we watch those videos quite a bit, where John Pounders and David Carrico talk about folks that have dove into the Gnostic text without really being strong in their faith, and they just kind of go off into the
right.
Ooh.
You can't go down into a rabbit hole with that.
Yeah.
But I would say it's important. I mean, I will say this, even a person who's studying seminary, right, a preacher, teacher, pastor, they have to learn. They have to know at least the basics, education of the different religious beliefs, because it helps them to understand why they believe what they believe and like the importance behind it. So I agree with you, though. You can go down a rabbit hole, which is bad. But I think if you just get a highlight or an outline of, okay, this is what they believe and this is why.
Yeah.
Then almost like a childlike, interpretation. Okay,
Right.
if you were going to explain it to like a 10-year-old kid or something, what would it be? And then, you know what that is.
All right. So before we get into any more of this interview, because I got some really great questions for you, we're going to take a little pause for the cause, Jennifer, and we're going to leave you with a triple shot of indie rock right here on Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio.
the ink on the pages hasn't dried. He hesitates as the water begins to rise. He said, caught in the waves, I'm not giving up tonight. Rip out the page, burn out the ending and rewrite. There's misery in this life, and I won't let the pain define me. I can't repay you for bringing me back to life. Bringing me back. Oh, you're bringing me but the ink on the pages hasn't dried. He hesitates as the water begins to rise. He said, caught in the waves, I'm not giving up tonight. Rip out the page, burn out the ending and rewrite. There's misery in this life, and I won't let the pain define me. I can't repay you for bringing me back to life. There's misery in this life, and I won't let the pain define me. I can't repay you for bringing me back to life.
You're listening to Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio, an uplifting message with a heavy dose of indie rock.
Is there a way to forget the world? Living on a broken promise. Never know the truth of what has actually happened. Was it real or just fake? You call it all and you call it hate. Never knew someone like you. But we'll never be apart. Dying daily without the blood we need to survive. God has punished us for sins, these sins we've shared together. Life and love and death, empty feelings are all that's left. Burning hatred in my mind, I left you far behind. Select, infect, neglect, reject. Only love I feel is a baseball bat. Only love I feel is the baseball bat. Only love I feel is the baseball bat. Only love I feel is the baseball bat. Through the fire, turn on the sun. I never should have trusted you. The Lord that you spun. I saw it coming. I saw right through. I saw it coming. Now we're through. Select, infect, neglect, reject. Only love I feel is a baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Only love I feel is the 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 baseball bat. Again and again and again. 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 Only love I feel is the baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Only love I feel is this baseball bat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa, wait a minute here. That's only 2 songs. I'm not going to do you like that. Here's the third song on our triple shot right here on Inspirational Waves, Indie Rock Radio.
I woke up today with a feeling I couldn't explain. I've been living my life in so much pain. People run and hide and keep it all inside. Things just get so tough, feels like suicide. What are we fighting for? What are we breathing for? Feels like it's so hard to relinquish pain. Feel it all the time, building up the pain. Going through so much, driving me insane. On empty all the time, quivering inside. Prison in my mind. When did we decline? What are we fighting for? What are we breathing for? Feels like it's so hard to relinquish pain. 'Cause what are we fighting for? I feel it even more. Trying really hard to get through this day. Falling backwards. Someone catch me now, right now. Cause what are we fighting for? What are we breathing for? Feels like it's so hard to relinquish pain. 'Cause what are we fighting for? I feel it even more. Trying really hard to get through this day. Feel it all the time, building up the pain. Going through so much, driving me insane. Running out of time, only live one night. Want to get through this
I'm telling you, how are you going to beat that? We started off with 3 solid tunes right here. We had North of Never with The River, we had Choked Up by Cooker, and we had What Are We Fighting For by The Chimps. It doesn't get any more solid than that. So, with that being said, let's get back to our interview.
Welcome back to Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio with your host Will.
And Jen.
And today we're doing our interview with Jen.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue right now. And man, I'm telling you what, so far, it's funny, but by reading the book, I learned quite a bit about you. You know, we've been dating for 2.5 years, but by reading your book, I got a more in-depth knowledge of who you are, which I thought was really cool. I'm glad you wrote the book.
Yeah, me too. It was something I felt on my heart to do.
Right. So in the beginning, when we were speaking on the phone and talking about my Jewish ways and
Right,
whatnot,
right. Your card-carrying Jewish ways.
my card-carrying Jewish ways. One of the things that I tried to do was to send you videos
Mm-hmm.
of other speakers, pastors, and things like that, who could kind of do a better job explaining my faith. It's funny, I have to get somebody else to explain my faith, but it really helped a lot, I think,
Yeah.
in conveying what I'm feeling and I'm thinking inside and what I know to you by just like sharing videos. So with that being said, who are some of your favorite biblical scholars that I sent your way, and what who was able to kind of make it more relatable and more understandable to you?
Well, at first I had, when you said, okay, we're going to talk about, chapter 1 on radio here, and I was like, okay. I had to think back.
Yeah.
I really did. But that was the whole reason I wrote the book. Was because I was like, I have to know and be able to remember this stuff.
So you took your memory and put it
in word form.
In word form,
Yeah.
so you don't even have to remember the stuff anymore. You can just look back at the book.
I can look back at the book.
It's taking up too much valuable space in your cranium.
Well, whenever I was studying in school, I used to tell you that. Well, maybe I told Troy, I don't know, or my son. I used to tell my son this. I was like, you brain dump, right? You take this, you have to study all this information, cram for a test. They call it cramming. And then you like brain dump all that after the test, right? I don't need to know it again. Now, if it's a lesson, you need to know. If it's a quiz, you need to know. You need to hold that knowledge. But as soon as you have a test or a midterm or whatever, you can brain dump it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've kind of done. I'm like, okay, I'm going to brain dump into my book. And then if I ever have to relate back to it, I'm saving space.
I can see that because I have to do the same thing on a daily basis. That's why I have those spreadsheets of all the projects I'm working on and everything that I'm doing, because if I try to keep that in my head will literally explode like that old Scanners movie where people's brains explode. So.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And it's like I was thinking about it. When people ask us, right, okay, well, why do you believe this way? Why are your beliefs this way? When they say those things, it's really hard to give them like a one sentence answer. Like, oh, because blah, blah, blah.
After a while, though, you really do want to give them a one sentence
I
answer
know,
because
you do.
it gets so irritating and annoying that you get asked this question so many times.
I know.
It's like, just leave me alone because I'm a Jew.
I
know.
So you want to make jokes about yourself because it just makes it easier.
So who are some of those favorite videos that I sent you?
Some of the favorite videos that I watched that actually really helped it and spelled things out for me. There was one in particular, Identity Crisis with Jim Staley.
Yeah, Jim Staley.
Identity Crisis. Sorry about that. Identity Crisis, I believe it, or Identities Crisis.
Identity Crisis. Yeah, I believe that.
That is one of the most influential videos that I watched that really, really spelled it out and made things super clear. And this guy, he's gone through a lot of stuff, and now he has started his own YouTube channel, and he has his own website, Passion for Truth Ministries.
Yeah.
So great site. A good guy who's been through a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And he talks about it openly.
Sure.
And so it was just really, really great. I'd have to like rewatch that, but I did write down Identity Crisis because it was a big deal and turning point for me.
Yeah.
Another one was Should Christians Keep the Sabbath with Jim Staley. He also does a really, really great
Why would you do that?
video,
It's
right?
a commandment. Why would you do that?
So, Should Christians Keep the Sabbath? It's a great title because it makes people think. Christians and Sabbath, do they go together? Okay? And in my opinion, they didn't. But he's trying to pose, do they?
Right.
And they do, actually.
It's funny how that works
in
out.
truth, right. So that was another one. So Should Christians Keep the Sabbath with Jim Staley? Another good one. Here's another great one. December 25th on Trial. And that's with Passion for Truth as well, Ministries. And that was a huge one. Like, I learned so much from that Passion for Truth Ministries and Jim Staley in particular. If you're asking me who, then it would be that. But video, it would be December 25th on Trial. Other videos, Michael Rood, the Creator's calendar. He goes into great depth. He even made his own calendar. It's the longest titled calendar in the world, but it's very good. And if you have to do a little bit of studying on it. You can't just go, because there's the pagan side of the calendar, and then there is the Hebrew side of the calendar. So you have to know that there was changes to God's way of dates and calendar, right? The biblical calendar. Also, Michael Rood is part of A Rude Awakening.
Yes, welcome to A Rude Awakening.
Welcome to A Rude Awakening. Now, the chronological Gospels 1 through 6, episodes 1 through 6, were huge in understanding a lot about the Bible and the way that Christians, because Michael Rood grew up as a Baptist too, so he kind of went that route. And so it was a big connection where I was like, and I think he was even from Michigan.
Yeah, he's from Holland, Michigan.
Holland, Michigan, exactly where I'm from. So it's crazy, but the chronological Gospels, episodes 1 through 6, A Rude Awakening, guys, check it out. If you haven't, it was a big deal for me.
Yeah.
And you too. You're the one who steered me in that direction. Hey, you need to listen to these.
Yeah, we'll get
Check
into
these out.
those chronological Gospels in just a moment. But it's funny to actually realize that people were keeping track of dates and times this whole time. When you look at biblical stories and the biblical narrative, history, that sort of thing, you look at them, sometimes it's just like stories, and don't realize that they have dates assigned to them. That things happened at certain times of the year.
Yes, certain ways and times, and it's all very, very structured.
It is.
You don't think it is, but it is. Yahovah, our Lord God, He was very structured.
Yes.
And He had a very specific way of doing things. It makes me think of Chuck Missler, like he's the code guy, right?
Yeah,
Chuck Missler was another guy that I listened to. A lot of his videos were very informative. But here's another one, Birthright series.
Oh,
by Timothy Alberino, right? This is how I got the connection, because in the Bible it talks about the word watchers. Okay, in a few different passages you find the word watchers, giants, and then Enoch. And I was like, what in the world? Well, in the book Birthright, it connects all the dots to this. And so the watchers are talked about. You figure out, this was the watchers. Now we know what they were.
Yeah.
The fallen angels, right? We figured it out. All these things are really, really, really well explained. And then the giants, well, of course, that's a big deal now with all this alien talk, right?
Right.
Aliens. Well, if there was everywhere. Nephilim, which are the giants, right? And there's Nephilim, then there's also aliens. And aliens could be these giants, right? We could go on and on about all this sci-fi / alien / conspiracy theory, right? But those, the Birthright series he has a lot of other stuff by Timothy Alberino, and the book you can also get. So those, I think that was the core for me, right? Jim Staley, Identity Crisis, Should Christians Keep the Sabbath, December 25th on Trial, and then A Rude Awakening, the calendar, God's calendar, the Creator, right? The chronological Gospels, episodes 1 through 6, A Rude Awakening, and Birthright series by Timothy Alberino. Watchers, Giants, and Enoch.
Not sure why you're whispering, but on that note, let's do a twofer.
Right here on Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio. Matthew Llewellyn and River Brooks with Ain't It Right. Now back to our interview with Jen.
Welcome back to Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio with your hosts, Will and
Jen.
yes, and we've been talking to Jennifer about her amazing book, Roots Return, Homesteading Bible. And I tell you what, it is just packed with cool stories, knowledge, and everything. But now we get to more of the controversial aspects of the book.
Yes. Yeah, right?
So, in your book, you talk about waking up to several facts that you weren't previously aware of. A few of them are our Creator's name and the name of His only begotten Son, the shape of our earth, and the corrupt practices of our political leaders. Now, I mean, that's a lot to kind of even think about right now with all the stuff that's going on in the world as we know it. Why? I got to ask you this question. Why is the shape of our earth so darn important?
Right. Well, for me, it was a big deal because I wanted to feel like when I pray, when I talk to God, I want to feel like He is close and He's not off in some unreachable space.
He's not up near Pluto or some other galaxy or universe.
Right. I don't want to be thinking that, we're just spinning off into some la la land and rotating and spinning and swirling.
I'm dizzy.
I know. Just thinking about it. So yeah, that was part of the importance for me, is just learning about that and understanding it.
I mean, what made you even consider that the earth is some other shape than like a ball, like a marble?
From what I was reading or learning, I realize now that the powers that be, we call them now, right? The teachers, the schools, and all that have changed it. So
the providers of mis and disinformation.
Exactly. They are the ones that changed it. If you would talk to a lot of elderly people, they would say that it used to be flat, and then it turned out, I guess our world turned into a ball. So the earth changed from being flat somehow along our lifetime.
Well,
and it
it happened a long
sphere.
time ago with, like, I think it was Copernicus and stuff. He introduced the globular model that these people identify with, but
then they try to retrofit that back into the history books, right? They change history books. They change Google. They change information. That's retrofitting something that wasn't there.
So it's a funny thing to think, because we all know that water always finds its level. Planes, you were in the Air Force, don't most aircraft fly straight with the nose up?
All pilots know that the earth is flat. And even if you look in government documents, the earth is flat. So a skydiver, ask a skydiver, ask a pilot. They know these things. They're not allowed to talk about it. They're not allowed to say certain things, and maybe they could lose their license and things like that, or their credentials. But the main thing is, it's flat. When we jump up and down, if we're swirling and twirling and rotating and flying around, if you were to jump up and down, land on your feet, you'd be in a different spot. You wouldn't be in the same exact spot as you are when you jump. Right. Yeah, I know. Some people, well, I jump crooked. Well, that's on you, okay? But most people, when they jump, they land in the same relative spot.
Right.
They don't move across. They don't have, you don't have this force pulling you in a different direction.
Gravity's not pulling you in these weird directions. Yeah, it's a strange thing, but I think one of the biggest takeaways that I take away from this is that with all this indoctrination, when you're in school, you have the glove when you're in kindergarten, all this kind of stuff. It just shows that if we're being told lies about one thing, what other things are we being lied to about?
Exactly. Well,
that's big.
The roots return is really it's returning back to the Bible, right? And a lot of the teachings I felt that which should have had more of an authority in the Bible would be your preachers, your pastors, your teachers, all those people, right?
Biblically, we're on a flat earth, aren't we?
Yes, and if I kind of want to go into a little bit about like the number 6, the one that you were what we were talking about or experiencing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had gone into it's the Sabbath, but you had a situation where you had anxiety. Tell me about that.
Yeah,
you had I remember
who's
you
interviewing
talking about
who here? What's going on here, Jennifer?
I don't know. There's a flip-flop.
All right. Excuse me here. Yeah, I have to clear my throat for this one. So since you are the co-host, that's appropriate.
Right. I don't want to slip right into the flat earth, even though that's something you're really passionate about, and I am too. But I want you to address this situation.
Okay, so for me, one of the driving forces behind understanding Hebrew roots was a coworker, and at the time, I had been working like a crazy person, and I'm sure a lot of folks listening to this broadcast can identify with this. Is I would try to work 24 out of the 24 hours a day. I would try to just maximize all the things that I can do in a very short period of time. And when you do that and you don't rest, you don't get enough sleep, you don't get your 8 hours, you tend to start feeling bad.
Yeah.
Meaning that you start getting a little anxious every now and then. You feel off. You feel edgy, on edge. And some of these things can manifest in more like terrible ways, physically and stuff like that. But I mean, one of the things that I experienced was severe anxiety and panic attacks.
Oh yeah.
And
That's not good.
I thought I was going crazy, which some folks might think that as well. But I thought I was just losing it. I couldn't even go into a store without getting a panic attack. Imagine that. I couldn't even go shopping. That's terrible.
But I'm sure you're not alone.
No, I'm not
alone.
alone.
And so that's why I was like, you gotta just express it. Because sometimes if we don't get that rest, and in the Bible it does talk about that rest.
Yeah, so one of my coworkers, Adam, good guy, he observed the Sabbath, right? He took that weekly day of rest that we should take, that's commanded, of us to take. And he recommended to me, he was like, hey, you look really bad. You should try celebrating the Sabbath.
I don't mean to state the obvious, but you look
really bad. You look horrible.
You look horrible.
And I was like, oh yeah, well, whatever.
Thanks.
But he was. I actually would give him a hard time. I would mock him for being a Jew and all this other stuff, even though he wasn't Jewish. But I didn't know that at the time, right?
Right.
So he was just following the Hebrew roots of his faith.
Right.
So, but yeah, he recommended that I start observing the Sabbath. It's a commandment, all that good stuff. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll try it.
Right.
This is terrible what I'm going through, because even at work, there was times that I had to excuse myself and go into a bathroom because I was feeling anxious. I didn't want to be around everybody, because you feel just like if you've never experienced a panic attack, you've never felt that way before. You don't know what it's like at all. So he's like, try doing the Sabbath, whatever. So I started, and like after about 2 weeks of observing the Sabbath from sunset to sundown, starting on Friday night to go into Saturday, after a few weeks, I started feeling a little bit better. And after about 2 months of observing the Sabbath, I was able to go into the grocery store and not have a panic attack and have to run out.
That's such a blessing.
Yeah, it is. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being blessed. This is amazing.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
what other Jewy things do you know, Adam? You know, what else can you tell me?
Yeah. Jew it up for me a little more there, buddy.
And then he started talking about eating clean. Which is,
Okay.
you know,
And all this is found in Leviticus.
in Leviticus, yes.
Right.
So yeah, if you go to Leviticus 10:11, I believe it is. If not, you guys can correct me. But you could go in there and you could find out what foods you're actually supposed to eat,
Yeah.
as opposed to any old thing that you see in a grocery
God
store.
didn't just give us random things to eat.
Right, he made us. I mean, how would he not know what we need to survive?
Right, and I just think
thrive?
it's so interesting because, like you were saying, okay, I'm going to bring it back to like all the different elements that are kind of shooing us aside. I mean, it's churches, it's schools, it's entertainment, it's family, it's finances, it's self-government or government itself, and just our basic freedoms. All of these things are being corrupted, like you were saying.
Always, yeah. You know, you have just like down to the basic things. You know, you got food in the store that isn't food. You know, like pork and shellfish.
Right, and they're really advertising this stuff.
Of course.
Too.
Yeah,
They
get
really
your pork
really
chops,
want
you know.
you to eat toxic stuff.
It is
Why?
toxic.
I don't know. Why do they keep bringing up bacon and, you know, all these
They're a bunch of pagans is what they are.
Strange foods that you know,
Yeah.
let's eat some electric eel and let's eat some crazy crap that
Yeah.
you've never eaten before. It's so fun and exciting to eat something that
Well, some of the problems is that you've got a lot of denominations out there, right? And it shouldn't really be that way because the word is what it is. And but people interpret things in just really strange ways, really wrong ways, you know. And it's actually a lot more simple than what most folks think. But you know, it's common practice for folks who are celebrating non-Christian holidays like Easter and Christmas and all these. And that's going to be funny to a lot of you guys to hear that these aren't Christian holidays that you should be practicing.
yes.
But, you know, on these holidays, you're eating things like ham and stuff.
Right.
It's like,
the Christmas ham,
you
they
know,
call it, you know?
and if it was a true biblical holiday, then you wouldn't be told to eat pork because
No.
it's forbidden. You know, it's
It's an unclean animal.
an abomination. For
It's an
crying out loud.
abomination.
So
So you don't, and you just don't go out. It's just like saying, here's a pillow, eat this.
right.
Okay. You don't eat things that you shouldn't eat. There's
Yeah.
certain things that you
And
have
drywall certainly looks
yeah.
tasty.
Oh, yummy. You
Get
know,
some drywall.
I mean, lead paint.
Yeah,
Paint chips as a kid. Glue. You
Yeah.
know, people eat it.
sure.
People eat it.
Yeah, they did in kindergarten.
And of course it's poisonous. So
Yeah,
we have to think about these things, folks. We
Well,
have to be a little bit smarter
we're
for
be-
ourselves.
Yeah, we're being bombarded continually with lies and misinformation and all kinds of garbage, and we have to be able to discern what's fact from fiction.
True.
You know, and
Wise as serpents,
wise, yeah, harmless as doves.
harmless as doves.
Yeah, doves. Sometimes those doves get pretty nasty, you know. But anyway, yeah,
Oh, they do.
they can. So
Oh,
yeah,
Lord.
that's one of the things that Jenny talks about is, you know, you have to really watch out around you, and you gotta know when people are lying. These politicians, Jim, they lie continually. They're terrible.
They have their own agenda.
They have their own agenda.
And it's not biblically based,
No,
typically.
no, it's not. So yeah, those are some good areas that you cover in your book, Jennifer, and I'm really happy that you did that. So if you guys thought that her book about homesteading, the Homesteading Bible here, was just about planting flowers and harvesting some tomatoes, you got another thing coming.
It's growth in all areas.
Yeah,
And so it's a great strengthening tool to use, this book.
it is.
And it has I have done a really good job of putting references in so that you can look it up. It explains it. When I talked to my mom said, this book is, it's motivating. Like, it's very, like she said, now my mom, she can't, she doesn't have a green thumb, okay? She can't grow, she kills everything, okay? I'll just be honest. She has one plant now, because if she's listening to this, she has one plant now that she said is alive.
Oh my gosh.
So she's not a plant person, but anyway, this is growth, guys.
For her,
Roots for us, for everybody. This is just, it's for everybody.
for her to give you a compliment on your book is pretty impressive too, because isn't she like an English major?
Yes, she was she majored in English.
Okay.
She did shorthand. She did she worked a lot of her life doing payroll at rest homes. So she did a lot of dealing with people and finances and problems dealing with that, and people with memory issues.
That's
and
funny.
old weirdo men.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there you go.
There's so much to that. But anyway, yeah, I digress. I go off on a tangent.
No, that's pretty good. And this is only chapter 1 that we're kind of scanning over and talking about, which, like I said, it's a great lead into the book. On our next show, now we have to talk about this. On our next show, we're going to dive into chapter 2 of Roots Return, Homesteading Bible, and examine how to buy an affordable homestead. So not only are you talking about all these cool things that you just talked about, now you're going to talk about how to buy some stuff.
Absolutely. Like, we definitely get to do that. And I'm telling you what, it's a wealth of knowledge that I learned. And I learned this stuff on my own, which is the best way to do it, right? You just have to dive in, get your hands dirty, literally, and do it. Just do it. And it's hard. Yeah. But you have to, like, keep doing it over and over again. Pretty soon you're successful.
So you guys, don't forget to check us out next week. Every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you don't want to miss it, because she's going to be talking about how to buy property. And everybody wants to know how to buy property in these challenging times.
Exactly. And we're going to go into great detail. Okay?
All right, folks. So that wraps up another show here.
Yes.
Another show. Actually, this is our first show.
Oh, yeah. That is our first. Well, we've done a lot of other shows on YouTube with the Ranch Network.
So thank you for tuning in to Inspirational Waves Indie Rock Radio. And we'll see you next week. Shabbat Shalom.